Hi, Titilayo.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
I think this is my first day with you guys. I had the
Oh,
recording, like for the first class because I was not there. So, but I
okay.
saw your name. That's why I knew that I'm like, okay, let me just say hi to her until everyone comes in.
Today is going to be the second class
Yeah,
because
sorry?
last week's class didn't hold. Today is the second class, second day.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
last
I
week.
was not there for the first one.
Oh, okay. Don't worry, you
Yeah.
didn't miss much. You'll catch up.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah. So they sent me the demo recording and all, and I
Okay.
did get a chance to look into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
But rest, yeah, I have all of you if I need.
good. Yeah.
So how's the weekend going on? Any special plans?
Oh, good, good, good.
Nice, nice, very good. Alrighty, so I guess we are just waiting for a few more here. So
Yeah.
how do you go? Like you go with your full name, Titilayo, or you go by any nicknames or
You can
anything?
call me Titi.
Titi, oh, Titi is a cool one. And you can call me Priya. You don't need to call the whole thing Priya Ji.
Okay. All right. That's good.
Right.
Let's just wait for others.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So I think it's just both of us as of now. Maybe everyone is in the Saturday vibe or something.
It's Saturday, so
Yeah,
party
exactly.
time.
That is so right.
My baby is also here, so
Exactly.
I'm multitasking.
Okay. So, what are we expecting today? What are we doing? Like, I know last time they just did some introduction to the role and all, right? So, did they tell anything in specific what we're gonna cover today, or?
No, I don't know what we're covering today.
Okay,
I don't know.
okay, okay, no problem. Okay, I see someone else here too.
Hello,
Hi, good morning.
good morning, Priya.
Good morning. This is my like technically it's second, but mine first because I didn't join last time for some
Yeah,
reason.
yeah, I know. So you are the new one.
Thank you. But I heard your those the whole session in recording, and I feel like okay, I'm now familiar with people because
Super,
at least I heard your introductions, so I was comfortable.
super. So I'm glad that you could find some time in going through the video. So good.
Thank
And
you.
just to let you know, I am your instructor. My name is Venkat, with good amount of experience working as a business analyst consultant for over 15 years. Experienced in handling projects in banking and finance mostly for most of my time, and also experience in working on some retail related projects as well. So if you've gone through
Amazing.
the recording last week, so do you have any questions for me before as we wait for others to join? And by the way,
Um,
before we move on, let me say good morning to Titilayo. Hello, how are you?
Good morning. I'm good. And you?
So, yeah, I'm
How's
doing
your
good.
daughter today?
Yeah, my daughters are doing well. Last week was little crazy. I had to cancel the class in the last minute because we have to rush one of my girls to the emergency room.
Oh,
Nothing serious, but we couldn't find any of the family doctors available to have a quick
oh,
consultation. So I had to take her to the emergency room. So when we step into emergency, it will take couple
yeah,
of
it
hours
takes
for
time.
even for a small thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
understand.
it's common these days. No, for whatever reason you step in, COVID test is common. So they took the sample, but fortunately we haven't got any COVID result yet. So also we haven't got any call from the hospital, so we are so positive that the result is negative.
That's good to hear.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. I
yeah,
hope she gets better, and I hope it's definitely a negative one for COVID, and I hope
yeah.
she
So
just
so
feels
the
better.
instruction given to us was if we can't see the result online, and if there is anything positive, doctor would call us. So it's been a week and nobody has called us. So the clear assumption is that the result is negative.
Negative.
And we don't
Right,
see any
right.
symptoms also, so we are not so bothered.
Right, right, right,
Yeah.
right. Okay,
So
that's nice to know.
yeah. Hi
So it's great
Tajinder.
that she's
Hello
doing good.
Akshat.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm
Venkat?
good. I'm
Morning,
doing good.
Venkat. How's your daughter now?
They're all good, Akshat. So that's what I was telling
Okay,
everyone
sorry. Okay.
what happened last week. So no,
Okay,
it's
awesome.
just a fever. So they started going to daycare, and it's pretty common that they fall sick. But
Yeah,
my only concern was they're falling sick more often.
right.
So
Also, this change of weather is a big headache now. Like for this week, I was all sick and down with fever, having all kind of medicines and all. Yeah.
yeah, the same with me. There's a lot of cold and feverishness because of the change in weather and all. Yeah, that was pretty understandable. But when it comes to your kids, you don't know what's happening with them. So
Right.
I tried to get my family doctor on phone. The spring vacation, everybody is away.
Yeah.
So with no other option, I had to take them to the emergency room, and it took almost 2.5 hours to doctor to let us know nothing is wrong, and it's pretty common among the kids.
Right.
So just to
Yeah.
hear that statement, we had to wait for 2.5 hours. So
Wow.
that, that's expected. So
Yeah.
no comments about it. All right, I think we have while we wait for Shumaila, so we'll give 5 more minutes to her. We have Priya, who's a new student who joined the class from this week. So, Priya, would you mind introducing yourself to the class so everybody knows your background?
Yeah, for sure. So, hi everyone, first of all. And this is Priya Ji Kaur, but you all can call me Priya. You don't need to just give yourself a hard time calling my full name. And I'm originally from India. I have been in Canada since 2017. Um, I have been working in insurance at RBC for almost 3 years now for IT or business analyst role. I have no backgrounds at all. This is a very new thing for me, but I love to do new things, and I feel like it's definitely a kind of career that really is something that I feel the potential in, and I just feel like it can give me better opportunities, and that's why I'm here for.
Uh,
And that's it. Yeah.
yeah, awesome, Priya. Not to worry because everyone here on this in this class are new to BA role, and everybody are equally excited to try new things. So my only request to everyone is to ask me any question that comes to your mind. So don't think anything about stupid or an intelligent question. So if you have any question coming up in your mind, you just ask me. And before I let anyone speak about it, I want to answer Akshit's question on with the WhatsApp that you sent
Oh, yeah,
last week,
please.
Akshit. So you were asking about the time allocation for different phases of the project execution, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the answer that I have for that is there is no specific stipulated recommendation time for each
Okay.
phase, but it,
Mhm.
it, it definitely varies from project to project and kind of activities that are involved in each phase. So depending upon the scale of the project and what's being delivered through
Okay.
that project, the
Mhm.
project manager in consultation with uh, business analyst and other key people would make an plan that would give a stipulated amount of time for each phase in the execution.
Okay, but Venkat, just a cross question on that. Do you think that we should spend only 30 to 40% time in development and 60% of the time should go into the rest of the phases, like for documenting the things correctly? Am I saying that correctly, or there is some other way that we should do it?
Not exactly. So that's what I'm trying to say. There is no percentage of stipulated
Okay,
percentage allocations to development and all. So, for example, I'm working on a project which requires more development efforts.
okay,
So if that is the case, then if I allocate only 30% of efforts to the development, would it solve these? Would it help the solution that we are planning to deliver? It may not, right?
right,
So in this case, probably I may have to spend 60 to 70% on development effort and less effort on documenting. And remember,
hmm,
on the percentages that you're talking with development and documentation, they are two different things because they are executed by two different set of resources totally, right?
right, right.
So when you talk about 60% 40% allocation, I don't know what you mean, but we'll discuss more in detail about this when we talk about the agile framework and the agile project planning. We'll discuss in detail on how the planning goes and how do you arrive at these effort estimations. So,
Okay,
hold your breath until then. So you'll have
sure.
all your questions. Probably all your questions will get answered while we discuss that. But hold your breath for that, Akshit.
No problem. Thank you, Venkat, for bringing the question out. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought instead of answering to you on WhatsApp, I thought I'll bring it up here so others will also
So
get
that's
benefited
a
out of
fair
it.
thing because also it's something that has to be discussed. It's more
Correct,
about discussing rather than just typing and then spending
correct,
time on understanding things and all that
correct,
stuff. But yeah,
correct.
thanks.
Priya, one quick update is we also have a WhatsApp group for this class. So that will let us not to wait for the weekend class. If you have any questions that you need answers for, you can always put your question in the chat, and that's a way of communication that we do with this group. So if you can drop in your phone number, I can add you to the group.
Yeah, sure, that'll be wonderful. So
Yeah,
I should drop the message here?
it's fine. So if you can drop it here in the chat box, then I can pick it up
Okay.
from here and then add you to the group. Not a
Okay,
problem.
sure.
So, or I can drop my phone number so you can just send a message to that.
That's
Uh,
fine. That's not a problem. I'll just drop
yeah,
here.
no problem. Yeah. And
Hold on.
while we let Shamaila join, so I'll like to continue. Do you have any questions for me from the last class?
Yeah, you asked us to write some requirements that we can ask to the stakeholder for mobile banking application.
Yes.
So let me know like whenever you want to discuss it or howsoever you want to take it forward. I
Yeah,
have
we
written.
can start with that while I prepare my screen for the next set of slides. We
Okay.
can surely discuss that piece.
So, like, should I like paste my questions in the chat, or how do you want to do it?
You can let's do this way. So because we also said the communication is important for the business analyst, and not every time you'll have an opportunity to present. So why
Right.
not you bring up your questions like the way. Assume that we are in a stakeholder meeting, and since I am playing the role of a stakeholder,
Hmm.
let's treat this as an formal stakeholder meeting, and let's get virtually there.
Okay. So, see, Venkat, I honestly I don't know how you guys actually interact with your stakeholders. Like, what is a formal way of doing that? But what I think is that I'll just straight away ask my questions to you based on the agenda of the meeting, which would be, of course, I think a mobile application development for a bank.
Go ahead, go ahead. Whatever, whichever the way you feel comfortable,
Okay,
go ahead.
so I have written like this is all that I could think of. I've written 24 questions, so I don't know if you want to discuss all of those, but
And for we'll start and we'll see if those questions are more connected to the project that we are talking.
Okay.
Why not? Let's take a few samples. So we may
Okay.
not do all 24.
Okay, sure. So my first question would be like who will be the desired audience for this mobile app banking application? Will it be your corporate users or the end-to-end banking users?
To answer your question, anyone who have an account with my bank
Okay.
are will be able to access this mobile application. So because we don't want to limit it to a specific group of people. So anyone
Okay.
who has an account with our bank, so
Mhm.
they should be able to access it.
Okay. Now, in a formal event, will I be allowed to do a cross question on it, or I would have to
Yeah,
move
yeah,
to the next question?
there are no restrictions, Akshat. So you as a business analyst have every right to ask any question that comes to your mind that is related to the project.
Okay, so when you say anyone would be allowed, let's say we have a corporate account, which is a company account. So,
Hmm.
who will be having the access to the company's account, to the corporate account in terms of mobile banking?
How is this question related to the solution that we are working?
Because in the future, like when we are going to like develop the mobile app,
Hmm.
we would have to establish some kind of login or registration mechanism. So in terms of corporate account, we would not know how to make sure that the correct person is using it, I guess.
Hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Um, okay, I'll ask you to hold this question for a later time.
Okay.
But yeah, let's move on. So I think that is pretty something to discuss in detail because it is little tied down to the other pieces of the
Correct.
entire solution that we are working on.
Right. Okay. So next question would be, what all features do you expect from this mobile banking app? Like, can the customer block his cards from the app? Would you like to have an inbuilt chat feature or a Face ID based login feature, stuff like that?
Can we park this question to the requirement gathering session?
Sure. Okay.
Because this is one of those functional requirements, right?
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Next question would be, how many languages will this app support?
For now, it's only English.
Okay.
But if
Okay.
if we see success with this version, then we might look into having a French version available for our customers. Because given the data that we currently have, we don't have many
Mhm.
French speaking customer base on our data now.
Okay.
So so adding French to the current version may not be an optimal solution for now. So we would like to come back on this strategy about adding languages other than English. But for now, the scope is with English language.
Okay. And the next question would be, if a customer has a joint
Before
account.
we move on, Nakshit, I just want to make sure that you're making some notes on these answers as well, because I
Yes,
want to
yes, yes.
use this conversation for a later session. So whenever I say something, I'm sure you're making some brief notes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm writing it down in front
Awesome.
of the questions that I have already.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
So, yeah, the fifth question that I have for you is, if a customer has a joint account, who will be the primary owner of the banking application? Or would you like to give two login access to the same account?
This is again tied down to the question number 3 about the corporate account access level.
Okay,
I'd like to answer this when we come there.
sure. Okay. Okay, and will the app have the same features across all the provinces, or you want to have a different policy for different provinces?
Uh, there are some compliance requirements that are different from one province to the other.
Okay.
So the solution should have a consideration for the compliance requirements for each province.
Okay, and now Venkat, on this situation, what will we do? Are we going to like keep this question for in detail discussion for the later stage, or what is going to happen?
Okay, now let me ask you one question. So what stage of the project are we in, do you think?
We're in the very starting of the project, so we are still, I think we're just doing an initial discussion on the requirements.
Correct. So do you think these questions are apt for the initial discussion?
I didn't get your question.
Yeah, I'll tell you because last week I just gave you an outline of the project, right?
Right.
But we haven't agreed on the scope of the project yet.
Yes.
So the first step of any project discussion would be understanding the scope or determining the scope of the project.
Okay.
Right?
You
Right. I'm
mean
not
whether the
answering. I'm
project
not.
is doable or
Don't
not?
take. Yeah, don't take this as an answer to your question, but in general, the general class topic, the important step for any project is the scope discussion. Right. So some of
Okay.
your questions, the first 5 to 6 questions that you asked, whatever the
Mhm.
question I said, we'll park it for a detailed discussion. Those are
Mhm.
something related to scope. Because we have not discussed about what is the scope of the project yet. So now
Okay.
these are futuristic questions to me at this point in time. These
Okay.
are these are very relevant questions. I don't have any doubt about it. But these questions are not meant for the initial discussion now. Because if you start asking these questions, the answers will be same. So yeah, out
Mhm.
of 5 questions you asked, I already asked you to park 3 of them.
Yes. No, two actually.
Right, yeah, 2 of them. So
Yeah.
which is like almost 50% of your questions are for later discussion, right?
Right.
So please understand the scope of this meeting as well. So because we are
Okay.
not doing this in real time, so in real time, as you said at the beginning, we'll have an agenda, so we know what is being discussed and how far we can go on this topic. Now, since I have not given you the entire scope of the project, what the solution that we are planning, some
Mhm.
of your questions that you already asked may not. I mean, as a stakeholder may not have the answers at the moment because I don't
Okay.
know what the scope of this project is. Now, when you ask me the corporate account access levels,
Mhm.
I'm going back to my first answer. Everyone who has an account should be able to use my mobile banking application, right?
Right.
So
Right.
now how do I do the user management is something for discussion. Now, because no, how do you understand this mobile banking application, Akshit? So do you think, am I starting my business with the application, or do I already have something, but I'm converting something to a mobile?
No,
Uh,
of course, I think you already have a working bank. So
correct.
probably have a website, web-based access, and you're a fully functional bank. It's just that you don't have a mobile application.
Correct. So when I already have a desktop or a web-based application working for my bank,
Hmm.
so I might already have some user level accesses defined there, right?
Right.
So we just want to replicate some of those to the mobile application. So my users will have more mobility now.
Correct.
So for example, in a corporate account case, until yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
the corporate account holder is walking into my branch for any service. Now, when somebody walks into my bank with a corporate account, I have a validation process that is already set up on my banking system.
Right.
So now my question to you as a stakeholder is, now can we use the same solution or the same architecture of solution on my mobile platform as well?
So what will I say in that case? Like I would have to look into your documentation or look into your process and then I can comment or.
No, if you see this as a conversation that we are having, when I ask this question, what do you think your answer should be? There's no right or wrong to it, right? It's just about handling the situation.
I would say yes, we can have the same level of user access, but this is something that I would have to look into more detail before I can comment the on this question exactly.
Correct. So, but now when somebody walks into my bank
Hmm.
and they get validated for the level of access that they have on the corporate account,
Hmm.
when we use the same logic, how are we considering the security aspects to it?
Okay.
So that's the second one, right? So now I'm extending my scope. So now the security has come into play.
Right. So you
So,
need two-factor authentication or something.
right. So you remember you are playing a role of a business analyst. You are not a solutions guy.
Okay.
Let's make it clear, right? So
Yeah.
when a stakeholder asks, "No, can we replicate the same solution onto your mobile banking application?" That's definitely not something that you can answer. Or
Correct.
even if you're technically sound, I as a business analyst would not take the ownership for that answer. And also remember, the discussion is not between you and me. So there are others in the play as well. So now maybe Tajinder could be my solution expert.
Right.
So when stakeholder asks this question, probably he can pitch in and say, okay, whether it's possible or not. And when I brought in something like a security feature, probably Priya would be my security analyst.
Okay.
So she can step in and say, okay, whether it is possible or not. Similarly, when I talk about user level of accessibility, user level management,
Mm-hmm.
probably Titilayo can help me from HR saying now what level of access or how do we assess the customer database, right?
Right.
See, I as a stakeholder may not have the idea of all of these things. That's why I have the experts like you.
Correct.
So for me, my solution or for me, my product should service all the customers that I have on my bank record.
Right.
Now, how do we differentiate the level of access to the account is the solution based discussion. And that will bring little complications as well on how much of data we'll have access to because although we are working on a great project, because of some security reasons, I may
Mm-hmm.
not have access to all the data that I need,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to first map who our stakeholders are.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Stakeholder register. Right.
yeah, so I totally agree that you have got a very good set of questions to ask the stakeholders when the project really kicks off. Now these questions are really make sense to answer when the project is kicked off.
Okay.
Right now, currently we are still in discussion stage. This project, I even don't know whether this project is approved or not.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Right now, this is still it's still in either in design or idea phase, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where your questions are really good.
Mm-hmm.
But the context of this meeting, they may not be ideal, right?
Okay.
Because for most of your 24 questions, I may not have answers for,
Correct. Correct. Yeah. I got your point.
right? So you may have to keep these questions for a discussion when project gets started or when we are talking about the scope.
Okay, now just one question. How do I filter between the questions that should be asked before a project kicks off? Like they should be, those questions should be general questions and not the questions that need in-depth discussion. Is
Right.
this
So
what you're saying?
your very first question on what is the scope
Yeah, the
is a
desired
really
audience.
relevant question. So when you asked that, I straight away answered it, right?
Right.
So for this meeting, those are some
Hmm.
things that you'll have to work on or prioritize or bring them forward.
Okay, 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 okay.
So
I got
anything related to access level questions will
you. Hmm.
evolve over a period of time.
Okay,
Because I
got you.
don't know what the solution is today. I'm only working on mobile application. So what level, how the logins login access should work,
Mm-hmm.
I have not come that far yet,
Okay, okay. I got your point now.
right? So maybe we are
So,
still on the ideation stage.
right, right, right. So I think my next couple of questions will be about the scope of the project, and I'm pretty sure, and you can stop me if I'll be wrong.
Sure.
So the next question that I have over here, it says, what all mobile platforms would you like to cover, like Android, iOS, BlackBerry, or is there any other platform that you would like to cover?
Yeah, definitely Android and iPhone because those are the two dominant mobile platforms today.
Right.
So,
Okay.
and most of our customers will either be an iOS users or Android users. But
Okay.
we also have Microsoft under consideration with
Okay.
not for not discounting anyone who is using Windows based phones as well. But BlackBerry, I don't know if the technology is already outdated. We are not sure if we are ready to invest on the technology today.
Okay, no problem. And the next question that I have is, can a customer log in to your app from a foreign country, or you just want to keep it within the country?
Mm, Good question. So, since we are talking about mobile as a solution,
Mhm.
as a stakeholder, my preference would be to allow people to access their banking uh, features from anywhere in on the globe.
Okay. And now, Venkat, on this thing, can
May,
like
may, may I ask you one question? So how is the security? How important is security for someone who is accessing my application or their banking account from my application outside of Canada?
Yeah, exactly. That was I was about to come to. Like, let's say if I have a security analyst sitting next to me, he or she can fall in and can comment on it and help you to understand that, look, there will be extra level of security that we would need, and at that certain point, the user might would not have that information that they would need in order to, log in into it. Let's say they're registered with a Canadian number, and if I go back to India and I need a OTP to log in, so I will not get an OTP on my Canadian number in India. So at that time, the customer may not be able to access the app. So that's something they would fall in and discuss with you
Right.
to,
Since you brought the OTP piece again, Akshit, I'm saying no. Again, this is solution based.
right, sorry.
Not to be sorry, I'm just trying to explain you how things work. So when you talk about OTP, I
Hmm.
don't know if I'm following the OTP way of validating my user, right? I don't know if that is part of my solution,
Okay.
right? So again, this is for future. So probably if, like all other banks, I may not send an OTP why should I send OTP to the mobile on an short message service? Why don't I send it to email?
Yeah, that's a fair thing.
So because I have, let's say if we talk about a use case here, for example, if Akshit is one of my account holders who use using my mobile application and is
Mm-hmm.
traveling outside Canada and unfortunately he lost his phone.
Okay.
What if it gets into the wrong hands and somehow they get access to his unlock his mobile phone and trying to log into his account? And what if I send an OTP on an SMS and
Mm-hmm.
if a wrong person has access to it,
Mm-hmm.
what is the liability that bank is carrying for any unwanted transaction that is happening on this account?
Okay.
So in my strong sense, from a security point of view, sending an security code on the same device is not advisable.
Okay. I got your point.
This is my thought. I don't know if that is how the solution should be figured out. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just throwing either my personal experience or maybe something that I heard from someone. I'm asking you from a security point of view. Do you think we should send OTP not to the phone but to any other account that a user has registered with us? Could be an email or could be an alternate telephone number if not on the same phone.
Mm-hmm.
What do you
So
think?
this would be more for my for a security analyst or for a subject matter expert to comment on, right?
Yeah, so this is for discussion. I just give you a use case. What if something like this happens? Now, how far the bank is liable? But what banking regulation says is also important, right?
Okay.
Now, who is responsible for securing the login on their device?
The user.
The user, right? Because I don't know whether that user is an authentic person or not, because I'm not doing any other validations, right? Or I'm not compelled to do any other validations.
Right.
Now, if you have got the password to your banking account, then it's your responsibility.
Hmm.
But now, because I'm concerned for my customers as a bank, I'm trying to add some additional feature to it,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So in short, this is how real-time discussions can happen
Okay.
productively. I don't know how others are enjoying this conversation, but in an usual setting, when you talk to your stakeholders, you can bring some questions like this that are related to your project or the product development.
Mm-hmm.
But before we continue on that, actually keep your questions. So as we
Sure.
move forward on our class, we'll bring these again. Okay.
Sure. No problem. Sure.
All right. So now what I'll do is I'll bring up my screen for the next set of slides where today we'll start talking about software development lifecycle. So do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. So don't mind the presentation because as I said, I'm working on some changes. So this is one of the tool that I'm working on. And yeah, let's see. So SDLC, yeah, the software development lifecycle will follow certain phases and it is done in different phased approach, no matter what methodology you're following. And today we'll see what those phases are and please stop me whenever you have questions. So general phases of any IT project is the first one is with requirements gathering. So one example that we did a role play is just before a few minutes ago. Me and Akshit were doing the role play about discussion with stakeholder about the project, and some questions that Akshit has brought in are related to the requirements. Either functional or some non-functional requirements. So the first phase is requirement gathering, but when would requirement gathering happen is when the project is kicked off and signed off, right? Now that means me as a stakeholder or some, when I say stakeholder, I am the sponsor of the project because my department or my business want this as a solution for my customers. So I have to make a proposal for budget approvals for this project to my higher authorities. And when I get the approval for the project to go ahead, that's when I gather all the people that I want on this project to start working. So definitely it'll start with the project manager, and project manager will select his business analyst, his development team, and their quality team, etc. Whatever is required for that project. So it undergoes some planning phase, and then it comes to the software development cycle, and the general phase starts with the requirement gathering. Remember, any project would start with requirement gathering because you'll have to understand what this project requires. Right. So I'm just falling back on the conversation that I had with Akshit. The requirement is to build a mobile application, and the scope is to include every single account holder that is having who is having account with the bank. Sorry, if somebody has any question to me. Hello.
All good.
All good. Okay, so I thought someone is trying to ask me something. All right, the first phase is requirement gathering, where you'll try to understand what the project is what it is trying to solve, what kind of feature that it should include, all that, what the requirements are, technical, non-technical, hardware requirements, software requirements, resource requirements. It could be anything. So once that requirements are gathered and documented, so you as a business analyst would start doing some analysis. So when I say analysis, for example, we were talking about user level access. So you might work on what are the current level of accesses that are available in the current system, and what is the possibility of replicating that access level on the mobile application, or do we have to include any additional security features as we discussed in short. So that is some analysis that you'll do. You'll document what you understand and you present it to the stakeholder for their approval. And once you get the approval for the requirements, then it moves into the design stage where Now the solution architect will start working on designing the application or designing the solution. Right now, that is the design phase. Now they will start working on designing the screens, what it should have, what kind of login it should bring in, how do you validate the login details, etc. All that fall in part of your design process. And once the design is approved, then you move into your development. Now this is where actually you start building the logic for this, for every aspect that is included in the design phase. That means when I say login, now you'll start developing the login feature for that application. So you will start including every logic that is possible to validate the login procedure, right? Likewise, balance transfer, or you're transferring funds from one account to another account. Now, what all you should have to complete the transfer successfully is part of the design process, and whatever you mention in the design, now that comes into action with the development phase. Once the development is completed, then you get into your testing of this development to see if that is working as it is expected. So let's say, for example, when I complete developing the login procedure, you can send that for testing, and the testing team will start testing the login from different scenario perspectives. Right. So I'll try logging into the application with while I have the account with the bank, and I try to log in with an account with an user ID where I don't have an account with the bank. Right now, how is my application responding to these two situations is something that you can include as part of your testing. We'll talk more about how the testing happens and what kind of testings that we can follow when we come to that phase. And finally, when testing is approved, now you will release the application for the user access, which is called deployment. Right now, before I do deployment, I will use different levels of testing, and which is very important phase here for any application to get approved for end user access. Any questions? Now these are the general phases. Now, depending upon the project, its complexity and the way the organization operates, your project manager or your scrum master may add more phases to it or may remove some phases from it. So the general recommended is these 6 phases. Right now, when we get into the methodologies, now there are several methodologies that you can follow when you are executing the project. So at the initial stage of the project, the methodology is determined. Again, the methodology largely depends upon the organization culture and its readiness to adopt new methodologies. When I say that, as an organization, let's say if I am a traditionally grown organization who believes in traditional methodologies, probably me as an organization, the culture may not allow me to try new things, right? So then I would fall back to my own time tested methodologies like waterfall. Waterfall is one of the oldest software development methodology, which is a linear sequential life cycle model. So when I say that, it goes phase by phase. When I say that, it is like, say for example, it is like cooking a dish. I hope all of us would connect to cooking, right? Which we do every day. Yes?
Yes, right.
Now, what's the process that you follow for cooking a dish? Probably I would ask someone like Titi or Priya. So what's your favorite dish, and what do you do in cooking it?
But yeah, I think whenever we have to cook the dish, I think first I would go with recipe, how I have to make it, I need to know. And then I'll just collect the
Yeah,
ingredients and I'll
yeah.
cook the process.
Priya, just sorry. I'm not just asking you to cook something new. What's your favorite dish, and what's the steps that you usually follow whenever you cook it?
I can tell you maybe about what I cooked yesterday. It's chicken.
Yeah.
chicken curry I cooked. So the procedure was like, first I decided what type of chicken I want, if I want with, kind of gravy or just dry. And then I did the marination. I put in the spices in there. Then I started my cuttings, for frying it and all. And that's it. I'm so sorry. I'm very bad at explaining my recipes.
Yeah. Yeah, we not, although we are interested in your recipe, but for now I'm not so inclined to it. What I need to know is, are you okay? Do you do all these steps one after the other or in parallel to the other?
Yeah, one after the other.
One after the other. What would I ask you to do some steps in parallel?
Would be a mess.
Would it really?
Depends
When I,
on the
when I,
dish.
when I say in parallel, let's say if while my chicken is cooking to the level that I want the softness or whatever you call it, can I keep working on mixing my masalas or
Oh, yeah.
other
Yeah.
ingredients? No, or do I have to wait until I chop my onions? Why
Yeah,
or
for
I
sure.
let
Now I got
or
your
can I let
point.
my chicken cook while I chop my onions?
Yeah, now I got what you are like, where you're coming from. I think, yeah, a few of the steps I do parallel. Like, for example, till the onions are getting golden fry, I'll just cut tomatoes on the side, and as you said, just mixing up spices. So I think, yeah, it just goes parallel in between,
Right. So
and it helps.
when you do that in parallel, so that means you are adopting an agile methodology. Okay. Did you guys get that? What I'm trying to say?
Yes.
But we are talking about waterfall, so let's stick to that. So waterfall is like I only start the next step only when I complete the previous one. So that means I will not turn on my gas until I completely keep everything ready. Now that means first I will I'll clean up my chicken and then I'll chop my onions. I'll mix up all my I prepare all my masala or whatever the ingredients that you're talking about for the spices that you're talking about. I keep everything ready in every single dish or plate that I want, and then I will start cooking the cooking process. That means that's when I'll turn on my stove, put my what you call the vessel on it, then pour the oil, let it heat, and then do one after the other. That is the very traditional way of waterfall methodology of making a dish, right?
Right.
Now there is advantage to it because I followed a traditional methodology. I'm sure the taste is going to be awesome. It will be authentic, right?
True.
But the downside to it is if you are inviting guests, this dish alone may take a couple of hours to cook. Agreed?
Yep. Right. Right.
So if I plan to cook 5 dishes, then I'll have to start my cooking process yesterday for the lunch that I'm hosting today because it will be time consuming. Agreed?
Yes. So you would need agile for that.
That is how the waterfall works.
Right.
But now I can also switch to my agile. That means I can start using all my 4 burners on my stove and start cooking multiple dishes at the same time without compromising on my taste, right? Using the agile methodology, but the, I may have to compromise on my taste to a certain extent. But it'll be faster because I can cook more than one dish at a time, right? Are you guys following me or am I mixing up things?
No, I'm getting it, Venkat. I'm getting it.
Good.
Please,
Yeah.
can you come again on the waterfall, please? Thank you. I'm lost.
Right. So now it is up to you as a project manager to decide whether you would go through a waterfall methodology to impress your guests, or are you still be able to impress the guests even if you cook multiple dishes at the same time using like an agile framework, correct?
Right. Right.
No, since my stove gives me 4 burners, on one burner I'll start cooking my chicken curry, whether wet or dry, whatever you want. On the other one, I'll start cooking my rice. On the third one, I'll start heating up something that is required as part of the dishes that I'm planning. That is something like agile, right? I'm doing multiple things at the same time, right?
Yes.
And I keep visiting each of this dish when it comes due, right? Now that means if I have to mix up the chicken, I'll certainly do it at the right time. I don't. I'll make sure that it is not overcooked, right? Now, as Priya said, while my onions are becoming golden brown, I look at my second burner or I look at my second dish, but I'll also make sure that my onions are not overcooked. That's when I'm following my agile methodology, right?
Right.
So it is up to you as the chef. You will decide how you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So your end objective is to make delicious dishes for your guests, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, likewise, in an IT project, now your project manager can decide on what methodology that, or your organization can decide on what methodology that they are comfortable with. There is no hard and fast rule. But these days, given the new technology age that we are in, most of the projects today are following the agile methodology. And as we say agile methodology, it is a combination of incremental and iterative approach. When it's iterative, it is like you're visiting your dish on your first burner while the fourth one is cooking up, right?
Right. Correct.
So you're coming back to your first dish when the time is. And likewise, you're going to your second dish when the time is, or third and then fourth. You're making sure you're having multiple touch points for on all the dishes until they're finally fully cooked. Right?
True. True. True.
So that is what we mean by incremental and iterative approach. Similarly, in an agile environment, when you execute a project in an agile environment, your requirement gathering can happen at multiple intervals, or your requirement gathering can happen in a phased manner. Now, I'll give you an example of an waterfall methodology. Now, Akshit was asking me about multiple requirements during our conversation, right?
Yeah.
I might have 100 priorities. I might have 100 requirements, let's say. So it's like I want to include Android and iOS. And then I also said I want to include Microsoft Windows at the later stage, right?
Right.
Now, that is that these are 3 requirements. Let's say these are 3 priorities. Now, what is my priority among the 3? Do I release my product for first Windows users or for iOS users or for Android users?
Should be Android first, I think.
I don't know why should it be, and my data says I have more iOS users.
Okay. Yeah.
Now the question is is it okay to target large customer base in the initial phase, or is it a wise decision to target a lower customer base as a pilot? Now why can't I take uh, minimal user group who is using Windows phones and take it as a pilot and release my mobile version for Windows users first in phase 1, and then extend the solution to my iOS users who are the major contributors of my mobile application usage. Now this is strategy, right?
Yes.
So now when I say these are my three requirements, what is my first requirement? To release my product for Windows users. And I can use a similar technology, or I can use a similar solution for my Android users as well, with little changes, right?
Yeah, true.
Because when your Windows solution is ready, you may not have to redo the whole solutioning for your Android users or iOS users from the very beginning. You don't need to reinvent the wheel again, right? Because I can use some of those Windows based technologies replicate on my iOS users as well, iOS platform as well, correct? Are you following? Is any confusion here?
Yeah, that's true.
That's true, right? So now what I'm trying to say is, in waterfall, what happens is you will not start your design activity, or you will not start your analysis activity until you complete the requirement gathering for all these mobile platforms. So that means you will have 3 different meetings or more than 3 meetings to understand the requirements for your mobile use for your Android users, understand requirements for your iOS users, and then understand your requirements for Windows users. Right? Any questions?
Right. I just have one question.
Go ahead.
So, out of these methodologies that you have said here, we being the business analyst, we would choose which one we have to go for, or it's the
Your
customer, or
organization, your organization and your project manager takes a call on it. But you can recommend. But let me tell you, the business analyst would come into the picture after all these decisions are made. Unless you are a business analyst working in that company for a long time, you may not get access to these discussions because your project manager may involve you or invite you into the project once they decide on all these factors. Make sense? But your organization, as I said, the culture of the organization is, let's say, laid back. They're not so fascinated about the new technologies or new methodologies. Probably I might prefer using a waterfall methodology. Right? If you have to take my cooking skills, probably I always use a waterfall methodology. But if I am working as a chef in a restaurant, do you think the waterfall methodology will help me turn my dishes faster to meet the orders that are coming from the floor?
definitely has to be.
It wouldn't, right? So then I'll have to go for agile. So similarly, your organization, if it is not ready for agile, or if it is not experienced following agile methodology and they are comfortable with waterfall, probably they might be more comfortable in allowing any new project to follow a waterfall methodology. Does
Perfect.
it
Thank
answer
you.
your question?
Yes, it definitely does, and it really helps now because now I know like who basically decides on it. So it
Right.
makes
And
sense.
and if your project is following in waterfall methodology, then you as a business analyst or anyone on the project will not have too much of pressure and stress because it everybody knows that waterfall methodology is slow in process and it will take its own course of time. Right?
Venkat, I have a quick question. Though it's not directly related to it, but is it correct to say that the agile methodology fails in non-IT based companies? Like, is it correct to say that agile is difficult to work around with in non-IT based companies?
Not really or not exactly. So in my experience, what I understand is agile requires more execution expertise
Okay,
because you should be able to multitask and manage multiple priorities at the same time because it is iterative, right?
right.
When waterfall, that's where I'm coming back now. In a non-IT company, if they are traditionally uh, grown and they're not so aware of agile methodologies, they tend to follow waterfall. The reason behind it is I know it goes phase by phase and then I have enough time to make decisions.
Right.
In agile, it has to be fast.
Hmm.
Because we have to move faster, because we are we'll talk more detail about agile and sprint management when we come there. But now, do you understand what waterfall methodology is? A waterfall methodology is like building a car.
True.
Now the customer cannot see the final output of the car until it is completely built. Right?
Yes, that's right.
Now I cannot show just the seating and the design of the seating to the customer and get their approval, right?
Right.
I cannot uh, show just the tires or the steering. If I have to show my product, it has to be completely built. Yes,
Exactly.
that is waterfall. Now, what is the benefit of agile is, now similarly you're cooking. You cannot get your dish to get tasted until it is completely cooked, right?
Correct.
Yes. Now I cannot call you and say, okay, can you taste this chicken, or can you taste this onion, or can you taste this spice? Until I put all of them together and serve you as a dish, I cannot ask anyone to taste it. Right?
That's correct.
Whether it is tasting good or bad, the feedback will come only after the entire process is complete.
Exactly.
That is waterfall. On the flip side, the agile is like, no, I do it in phases. I do it in small phases. So that means after completion of every small phase, I get feedback. Now,
From your stakeholders, right?
from stakeholders, the end users, or anyone.
Okay. Okay.
Now it's like, let's come back to our mobile banking application. A mobile application. Now, do I have to wait until I complete the entire application before I show it to my customer?
No.
When can I show it to my customer?
As soon as some of the features are ready, you can keep
Right. So for
showing it to
example,
them.
give me an example of a feature that I can quickly get it ready.
Face ID,
Sorry.
like a Face ID security.
Yeah, the Face ID security. That's even far for me to show it to my customer. Can we do anything little quicker than that to get to understand better what my customer wants?
Like
Sorry,
create some
Priya, you raised
wireframes.
the hand.
Like, I don't know if my answer is gonna be correct or no, but I guess like those wireframes or that we can maybe just
Right, the
show to the
wireframe, the
customer.
design itself, right? I can just place the login and the password text boxes and have a nice background to it and then show it. They may not function, right?
Kind of like demo type, right? Like
Right,
wireframe
yeah,
demo.
the wireframe demo type. So I can do that, right?
Right, right, absolutely.
That's agile. So what I'm doing, I'm not building the whole application to get feedback from my customer. I'm just giving him a small design, and then I'm driving my conversation based on that design to check if that is what my customer wants. Agreed?
Yep.
Yeah.
And when my customer says, okay, this is how I want my screen to look, and this is how my login, this is where I want my login username have to be placed on the mobile screen, or the password should be on my mobile screen. That's when you will go back and say to your development team, okay, now you write the code for accepting the username and accepting the password and then letting the user log into the system. Right? Now that's the benefit of agile. So in agile, what happens is you involve your customer at every single phase of your project development. almost on a daily basis. Whether at the capacity of the stakeholder or at the capacity of a subject matter expert or at the capacity of an end user, you are involving your customer in an agile environment. Whereas in waterfall, the customer doesn't get to see the product until it is completely built. I have built a nice Audi version, but my customer didn't like it. What do I do? I've spent about 3 years in building that car, but the reviews are pathetic. What happens?
The whole effort is vain.
Yeah, the money is lost, time is lost, effort is lost, and you'll have to rework on some things. So there is a lot of cost involved, waste of money, waste of time, right?
Right.
But does automobile has any other way that they can do quicker, cheaper, faster? Involving the customer? What happens if I start involving my customer in the design process of my automobile?
Won't be able to complete the project.
Yeah, you'll never be able to complete the project because the requirements for different user groups will be completely different. Tajinder might like nice leather black color seats. Priya may not like black. She wants some other color. I don't like the round steering wheel. I want something like a joystick. So you as an automobile manufacturer will not be able to make a decision on whether the steering should be a rounded steering wheel or a joystick, right? So in such manufacturing industries, you generally tend to see what use of waterfall methodology more often than agile, right? But if you see off late, the automobile industry has also followed in not 100% agile, but probably to a certain extent. Now they start doing what they call these car shows, right? Before they go full on manufacturing or building that cars, they give you a demo of how the car is going to look like in a car show, or maybe like what they call, I forget this technical term every time. What they call is, this is not a prototype. It's like, yeah, in a car show, they give you a demo, right? It's like concept design. Yes.
Yep.
Now that's agile. So they bring the concept design to the users or to their customers. They get the feedback and they apply that feedback and they go full-fledged on their manufacturing and they release the car on based on that inputs from the customer. So your reviews are not as bad as you can expect when you do it on a waterfall methodology. Agreed?
Correct.
But
But Venkat, like Priya said, we can create wireframe diagrams and stuff like that.
right, in
We
that
can
that's
do
right.
that in.
Yeah, that is what I'm trying to tell you. So depending upon the project, you decide what methodology suits best.
Okay.
Now, if I am working on a mobile development project, yes, I can go with an agile framework with wireframes at different intervals, releasing the wireframes at different intervals and getting feedback from my customer. If I am very experienced in running an agile environment, I know how to involve my customers effectively, then I can involve my customer as part of my project and get them involved in on a daily basis and get their feedback more often than ever.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
At the same time, I can also do this.
Oh, Venkat, I cannot hear you.
Yeah, we lost him. I should just type a message.
Hello?
What about now?
Hello.
Yeah, Venkat.
Yeah, we lost you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, probably my speaker got a little disturbed. So what I'm saying is I can follow agile methodology in a mobile application development project, or I can also follow a waterfall methodology for the same project. It can be more costly, it can be more time consuming, and can be a little risky for me because I don't get to see customer feedback until I complete the whole project, right?
Right.
As you said, like this has been already decided by the project manager, right?
Exactly. So what I'm trying to explain you what these methodologies are, so you understand it better. So waterfall is a linear sequential life cycle model. So if you go more in detail, so it goes like this, goes step by step. So you don't get to your design phase until you completely complete your requirements. That means now I'm going back. Suppose if a stakeholder has got 100 requirements. So you will not start your design activity until you as a business analyst understand all the 100 requirements. Now, can you tell me or imagine how much time is it going to take if I have to start a requirement gathering for all these 100 requirements?
It might can go forever. Like if you have multiple stakeholders,
Right.
they will
So
have
if you have
different.
multiple stakeholders and if you are working on 100 requirements, yes, probably the project manager, Akshita, I'm again going back to the same, your question of how much time should I allow is,
Yeah.
I said I'll give you 3 months of time to get all the requirements.
Okay.
Now, three months of time, is it enough? I don't know. Can it be faster? I don't know. Will it take more time? I don't know.
Exactly.
But I'll give you 3 months to get a full detailed requirement for all these 100 features that my stakeholder wants. Right?
Right.
Now, once the three months of time is over, that means when my requirement phase is completed, after 3 months from today, that means on June 26th, I would call the requirement phase is complete. No matter whether you got all the 100 requirements or not, on this day, we'll say this requirement phase is completed.
Hmm.
And after I say it is completed, I'm not going to look back on it.
Correct.
Whatever I have as of June 26, that is the final requirement for the product. And I am not ready to encourage any changes to those requirements after June 26th.
So
But
what
what if
are
you're
these? Very good.
Go ahead, one at a time.
Good.
Hello.
I think we lost section.
Yeah, go ahead, Tajinder. You have a question, right?
So you were talking about these 100 requirements, right?
Hmm.
Are we supposed to entertain all these 100 requirements, or there is a filter method of?
I'll come there. I'll come there. So now you understood, right? Now how waterfall
Yeah.
works. So once I get all the requirements, I will start my design activity only on June 27th. Because I am waiting for all my requirements to come, I'm waiting until June 26th. So what am I going to do in the next 3 months? I only focus on getting the requirements, not doing anything else. So that is what we call linear approach. I go one step at a time. And once I finish this step, I'm not going to go back and correct anything that is needed. That means when I move into implementation, I'm not okay to go back and make any design corrections. Or when I start my design, I'm not okay to go back and do any requirement corrections because I treat that phase is complete. Right?
Yeah.
So that's waterfall methodology. But again, and it is very traditional and old methodology. And these days you see very little companies or little projects, not even handful of projects follow waterfall methodology because of its time consumption, cost, and the complexity involved in it. The next one is iterative model. Now, iterative model is like a precursor to our agile discussion. And that means Agile will have some similarities of iterative model where it emphasizes on iterative and incremental action. So when it's iterative and incremental, now I gave you 100 requirements. Now to your question, Tajinder, are all these 100 are my priority? Why not? No. Does all the users require all these requirements, all these features? Possibly no, and mostly no. So now what are those top 10 or what are those top 20 features that are important for your customers? So now we will focus only on the 20 first. But what about the remaining 80 that your stakeholder wants? We will take them in phases, right? First, we'll deliver these 20 requirements, and then we'll continue to put our efforts in understanding the other 80 requirements. And we'll not do all 80 in one shot. Again, we'll out of that 80, we'll also take what are the top requirements, what are the priority requirements, and that will be our phase 2. And then the remaining requirements, phase 3, then the remaining phase 4, and the remaining phase 5, it goes on until we complete all the 100 requirements that your stakeholder wants. Make sense?
True.
Yes.
In every phase, your requirement gathering is repeating, right? In every phase, your design is happening. In every phase, your implementation is happening. In every phase, validation is happening or verification is happening. In every phase, the maintenance is happening. So it is repeating. So the process is getting repeated multiple times, right?
Yes.
Yes. So it is like mixing up your spices one at a time to get that flavor. Yes.
Correct. Right.
So you don't put all spices at the same time and stir them. The taste coming out of that is different from you adding spice one after the other in an iterative model and letting that spice get absorbed into that dish. Then the final taste of that would be different, right? That marination will be different. Agreed?
Correct. Yeah.
Now that is iterative model. Now iterative is a prelude or precursor for your agile. So agile is the next, I can say the agile is next level of iterative model, right? So that means in iterative model, it is common for team to work on several SDLC phases at the same time. Now that means since I'm not waiting for all the requirements to get completed, for those 20 requirements, my design team will start working on those 20 requirements. Yes?
Yeah.
And while the design team is working on the first 20 requirements, the BA is working on the remaining 80 requirement gathering, right? So now it's happening in parallel, right?
Yeah.
Now when the design of this 20 is completed, your development of the 20 requirements will start happening. Or the design of the 20 requirements will start happening, correct? While the design of that is happening, the requirement for the remaining 80 is happening. And when that is completed, the analysis of that remaining 80 will keep continuing, right?
True.
So multiple phases of your SDLC is happening at the same time because different teams are working on different phases.
Correct. Yeah.
Right now, like waterfall is like a marathon. Everybody starts at the same time, but everybody finishes at different times, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So iterative model is not like the iterative model is like a sprint or agile or iterative model is like a sprint running. So not everybody will start at the same time. So you go to a certain point and then you hand over your guard to someone else and he will take it forward, right? So multiple things are happening at the same time in an iterative model. Any questions so far? No questions? Super. Then the spiral model is one of the most flexible SDLC models. The reason is it enables project teams to build customizable products. So this is where one methodology that you can think when you are working on something like website development or mobile application development, where you can involve your customer more often than ever, and you want the framework to be customizable to different customer segments or different customer groups. Can you hear me? Awesome.
Yeah.
So, and in spiral model, it passes through 4 phases repeatedly until the project is finished. Now, what are those 4 phases? Determining objectives, then identifying and resolving risks, and then development and testing, and then planning the next iteration. So these keep happening in cycle, one after the other, in parallel. And the reason and the beauty of a spiral model is it focuses on mitigating the potential risks. Now, while answering one of the questions related to security, that is where I'm adopting a spiral model and understanding how much of risk is involved in letting my customers access the application outside of the geography, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. So it's like a mix and match. So when you mix the spiral and iterative model, you'll get a next advanced model like agile methodology. Now, this is completely based on incremental and iterative development, and it requires minimal planning. And another important difference between waterfall and agile is in waterfall, I need to do a lot of planning in beforehand because I know what I need to do in the next 3 months. Then I need to plan what I can do I can do after 3 months, right? So
True.
you have a traditional, a well laid out project plan in waterfall methodology. Whereas in agile, I don't care about what am I doing after 3 months or what am I doing in the next 3 months. Now I am only careful about what am I going to do in the next 2 weeks. I am not planning on my project anything beyond 2 weeks. I and my team know what are our deliverables in the next coming 2 weeks, in the next fortnight. Because agile follows a model called sprint model or called as just in time. So this
Mm-hmm.
just in time sprint is usually for 14 days or usually for 2 weeks or max of 3 weeks. And we agree what are we going to deliver in that 2 weeks. Right? Now when I bring in the car manufacturing into a sprint model, now the design team has agreed to give the design in the 2 weeks. And now the assembly line is going to give me a construction of interiors or the alignment of seats in the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And the mechanical team is going to give me a wheel alignment after the interiors are completed. Now in the next 6 weeks, what is the product am I going to see? I'm going to see an outline of my car and the interiors and the wheels getting ready, right?
Yeah. Right. Right.
Now that is how the agile planning is done. Now when you adopt it to the mobile application development, in the first 2 weeks, I'll give you all the requirements needed for logging into the application. Now, when I'm working on login functionality, now I am not focused on the security features. Now, what is my job in the next 2 weeks? As a business analyst, I need to give you every single requirement that is needed for a successful login, right? I'm not bothered about the security or accessibility of the application outside my geography now in the 2 weeks because I'm focused on only gathering the requirements from my stakeholders about the login and any kind of feature or security that is associated with login, not with anything else.
Venkat, quick question, please.
Go ahead.
So, like you said, in your initial stage, you will be just focusing on creating the login-based requirements. You'll be focused on completing the login-based requirements. Now,
Correct.
what happens if the future requirements that we get, let's say the security-based requirement, what
Mhm.
happens if those requirements affect the product that has already been developed? Let's say we have already created the login part. Now, what
That
happens if
is where
future? Yeah.
that is where we call this is an iterative, right?
Okay.
Incremental and iterative development. Now, say for example, in the next 2 weeks, the development team has completed login procedure.
Mm-hmm.
The following next 2 weeks, the testing team has completed testing of it.
Correct.
And while the testing is happening, I as a business analyst has come up with some security requirements.
Okay.
Now, those requirements will go back to the development team, and the development team will go back and start adding the security features to my login feature.
Okay.
So it is happening in iterative, it is happening repeatedly, repetitive. So that means no phase is completed completely.
Okay.
Because I'm involving customer at every single possible stage and I'm
Mm.
getting feedback on the fly, I as a business analyst have to apply my analytical skills in understanding what those changes are and how much of those changes are feasible to me at that point in time to include them. And I love to let my project manager know what are the risks of including those changes and what are the risks of not including those changes.
Okay, I got the point. Yeah.
Right. So that means unlike in waterfall, I'm not saying my requirement gathering is completed. I'm not going to entertain any new requirements. No,
Mm.
because we
Mm.
are using an agile methodology, I'll say, okay, I'll take your requirement, but I'll also do an analysis of the feasibility of adding this requirement to this development phase.
Right.
Now, if my development team is not ready to build that feature now,
Mm-hmm.
I will tell my stakeholder I'm going to give you this feature in the next release.
Okay.
The next release might come in 3 months from now, 6 months from now, or a year from now.
Okay.
Now that is the risk that your stakeholder have to carry, because that is the delay that might impact your customer experience.
Exactly. Right.
Now, if I as a stakeholder feel that is impacting my customer experience, which is my top priority, then I can change the priority of my requirements to include this new change first in this release and delay some of the agreed features in this release to the later stage.
Mm. Makes sense.
So
Right.
your stakeholder discussion is not one-time activity in an agile. It's happening more often, repeatedly, and iteratively. So your design is happening
Mm.
every single day during the project. It's not like I'll finish my design in 1 week and then I'll sit quiet. No, your design is happening along with your requirement gathering, along with your development, along with the testing, along with your customer feedback.
True.
So once we fulfill all the requirements that are on priority for that customer, we will release the version of the software for that's what we call release, right? No, release 1, release 2, version 1, version 2 kind of thing. That is where you see your software like a mobile application version 1.0, 1.1, 1.2. No, today if you see your Apple software, your iOS Windows iOS operating system is on for 15.6.1 or something, right?
Yeah.
Now, why is 15.6.1 and why is 15.6.2? Because whatever they couldn't do in 1.1, now they are doing it in 0.2.
True.
And when those are ready, they release it like 0.2, right? And
Currently,
whatever,
you're working on the agile methodology.
that is agile methodology. Now, these days, whatever software application that you are building, whether small or big, is mostly 99.9% is agile methodology, because it is less costly or it's less expensive, and you involve your customer at every single phase, you get to see your end user feedback, right?
True.
You know what your end user is asking for and you're delivering it as and when your user is giving you feedback. So you are ensuring your customer experience. So Akshit, to your initial questions, because I don't know what my end user wants, I cannot answer all your questions now.
Yeah,
Because we'll
got you.
have to define the scope first.
Right.
Right. So agile is more flexible and it is iterative. That means I can go back to my requirement gathering while one phase of my project is in maintenance. That means as I am releasing my version 1.0, business analyst is working on requirements for version 1.2. While development team is working on the version 1.2 requirements, your business analyst is working on the requirements for 1.3.
Okay. Yeah.
And while your business analyst is gathering requirements for 1.3, your design team is working on designing your 1.3 requirements, while your development team is still working on completing 1.2 features. Right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
your development team will take on 1.3 requirements when they complete the release of 1.2. So everything is happening in parallel. So which is cost effective because I'm not keeping any of my resources idle, correct?
Yeah.
Everybody is engaged in the project in one or the other phase. Everything is happening frequently. So it is just in time. So if my customer is coming back, when I say customer, the stakeholder is coming back and asking for an additional requirement in just in time, I'm considering that requirement because I have that adaptability and flexibility to include this requirement in the next release. Because I'm
Gotcha.
not planning my project for the next 1 year. I'm planning my project only for the next 2 weeks of my sprint. And if some changes happening in these 2 weeks, I can always forward these changes in the next 2 weeks of my planning. Right?
That's true. Right.
So I always have a plan A, plan B, plan C. So if something is not completing in plan A, I can extend some of those features into my plan B. Flexibility, right?
Right.
If I cannot complete everything in plan B, then whatever is left over, I can push it to my plan C. So that is the adaptability and flexibility that your agile gives you. So, and as I said, the customer is involved during all development and maintenance phases, and that brings up more frequent communication with your customer or your stakeholder. And in agile, because it is iterative, you are not working in silos. You are working as a team, and you are always in constant touch. You as a business analyst is always in constant touch with your design team, your development team, your testing team, your stakeholders, everyone. Right now let's say while we are working on mobile banking application and we talked about security today, when I go back home, I might get an idea as a stakeholder, correct?
Yeah.
And I will bring up that idea tomorrow to the business analyst and say, okay, can we also do this? Can we add this additional security feature? Or I want this additional security feature. That's my requirement now. Okay. Can you say no to me? Okay. Is there a possibility of saying no to me?
In case of waterfall, yes.
Yeah, because you already closed your requirement phase, right?
Right.
Are you talking about agile right now?
Yeah, whichever. So if you are talking agile, there is a flexibility for me to consider the new requirement, right?
Yeah.
But I can also tell you when it can be delivered.
Correct.
In this release or maybe next release or maybe release next to that. So I'm not completely discounting your idea or your requirement, that it might get deferred, right?
Yeah.
That
Now,
is the
Venkat, is it based on, can we like tell the stakeholder that, look, we have a change management policy based on which we'll decide whether we can take your
correct.
requirement at this stage?
Correct. Yeah, we'll come there. But
Okay.
now, do you fairly understand what agile methodology is all about?
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic. So this is what I have for today. So any questions? So
Yeah, just one question, please. If somebody else want to go first, they can go.
yeah,
Go ahead.
Okay. Venkat, can you define one more time, please? What do you mean by the scope of the project? Specifically, if we talk about the mobile banking application.
right.
So what is
The
the
scope
definition of scope for you?
the scope of the project here is to have a solution or the application should work on Android and iOS platforms.
Okay.
And the out of scope is BlackBerry and Windows for now.
Okay.
Got it? And
Yeah.
and accessibility should include all account holders who are having an active account in the bank.
Okay.
Could be personal or commercial or anyone.
Could be
Okay.
employees too, right?
That's the scope. If I have to define fairly, that's the scope I want.
And can I also say that in the scope, I can say that it should follow the guidelines of the Canadian government or the country for which we are developing. Is that part of the scope?
That's not part of the scope. That's a requirement.
Okay.
Following Canadian guidelines is a compliance, right?
Right. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Compliance is a requirement. It's not a scope,
Okay. Okay. Got it.
right? Whether you're doing it for Android or iOS or for both, it has to comply to the banking regulations.
Okay. I got your point.
So that's the requirement. It's not the scope.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. Anyone has any more questions or to add? Do I have everyone or did I miss anyone on the call?
You explained very well.
I'm sorry, I barely hear you.
Me?
No, I barely hear. I don't know who is speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, Priya, go ahead. It's better, Priya. Otherwise, I can barely hear you.
So sorry. For sure. Yeah, I was just saying that you did explain very well, so I really don't have any questions as of now. Thank you.
Super. I wanted to cover some process flow today, but because the discussions went a little interesting, so I had to push it to the next class. These are the methodologies that I want to touch today. The spiral and iterative are a combination. Agile is a combination of the spiral and iterative, but more frequently or more often used is agile methodology. That's where I think I'd spent more time in explaining you what agile methodology is all about. In the next class, I'll from the next class onwards, we'll start working on some assignments because today I want to show you some process flow, but let me quickly bring that up if you're okay, because it's just 12:36.
Just
Let me
one
share
question, I'm
my,
sorry.
sorry, go ahead.
So these are the only four models to be adopted. There is nothing like no other models
No,
are.
not only four. These are one of those four. There are many. There are many that you can adopt, but these are four. These four are little popular, and agile is more popular among all of them. There are hundreds of models, Priya, that you can look for, but um, because you cannot assess all 100 at the same time, probably market is inclined to these four more often. Does that answer your question?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. So if you can see my screen, here is something, this is a process that I have, a documented process for which we're trying to create a diagram out of this. Right now, that means every time you may not like to write everything a paragraph like this, but the easiest way these days to explain anything like this is using a diagram. So what we call it as a data flow diagram or a flow diagram. So now here is the you received a note from your stakeholder on from an order entry department, and this note speaks to the current order entry process. This is what we call current order entry process. This is how it is happening today. Now you as a BA need to break it down to extract the data flow information around this process. So now this entity identifies sub-process within the main process below, and then identify how information or data flows around the objects in the main process. Now what it says is the customer triggers all the action in your department. Now it clearly says where it is coming from. This is your input, right? And what you receive is an order with or without payment, or you receive a complaint, or you receive a payment. The payment can be with or without invoice copy from the customer. These are separated and following actions takes place. Now, if it is an order, we verify existing customers' credit status and then verify that item numbers are valid by checking into your inventory file. The new customers' orders are sent to the credit department and held until they clear the credit check. If half the payment or more is included, that order is treated as if they were credit order with good credit. Valid orders are accumulated and grouped into shipping zones and transmitted to the warehouse to be filled. After the order is filled, a customer address is attached, the best or requested shipping method determined, postage or shipping cost calculated, the order is shipped, and warehouse inventory is reduced. A copy of packing slip goes to accounting where an invoice is created and sent to the customer, and the customer's account is updated. The copies of orders with payments and payments go to the accounting department where the payments are applied to the customer's account and the item inventory is officially updated in the accounting. The customer complaints go directly to the customer service. They research the situation and respond to the customer as soon as possible. Any action taken by customer service which affects accounting or inventory is passed to them for updating. Possible actions are new order, a debit or a credit. Now these look exactly like the regular order process. Now this is the description of the entire process. Now how best can you put in a diagram is this one. I'm giving you the solution because next week I'm going to come up with a new assignment for you guys. Okay. Is it visible? Can you see?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, as you see, there are three processes, right? One is receiving the order. The other one is a complaint. One you receive an order, one is a complaint, or the third one is a payment. So I've divided this into three. And for orders can be with payment or without payment. So first you'll have to decide whether the order has a payment methodology or it doesn't have a payment methodology. And the order can be from a new customer or from an existing customer. In case of a new customer, it has to go through credit department, and the credit department first will check if the payment has come with 50% value or not. And if it is under 50% value, it gets here. If it is more than 50% value, it goes here. And if it is existing customer, the customer verifies the credit status and then it's validated in the inventory and it goes to a shipping zone. And if it is a payment, then it goes to your account department, and account department will update your payment, update the inventory, and the process ends here. But at the same time, if it's a customer complaint, it directly goes to your customer service department and it is researched, and then it will determine which department will get affected. If it is inventory department, it goes to inventory. If it is accounting department, it goes to accounting department. Now, this is the diagrammatic representation of the entire process here. I'll send you this document. So I want you to spend this week time to go through this and see how this diagram is making it as a simplified process to understand.
Venkat, what do you call each of those diagrams? What do you call this one, the colored one?
This is called as a flow diagram.
Both of them?
Yeah, both of them. I use two different models here, but we'll talk about this little later. But this is also more relevant to this context. But I want you to first look for this week. I want you to look at this case and this diagram.
So this is not an ER diagram, right? ER diagrams are for databases, I guess.
Yes, entity relation diagrams are for databases. We'll talk about that in the next class.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, I'll send you this on email, and you can refer to it during this week. And if you have any questions, we'll talk about it in the next class. Make sense?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Venkat. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So that's all I have for today. And like every time, you can wait for the recording to get available on the cloud, and then I'll share you the link for you to refer to this recording in this week.
Awesome.
Right?
Thank you so
And
much.
Akshit, if you have these 24 questions written somewhere, you can send that to me on the email,
Sure.
the same email, a2z.barpatraining@gmail.com.
Yeah.
So that next week we can bring them up on screen and discuss with the group.
For sure. You would you like to have a Word file or an Excel file? Like what would you
Anything,
prefer?
anything is okay. But since
Okay.
I'm using screen, present the screen, so
Uh-huh.
you just make sure that it is shareable.
Sure.
And if required, we may have to zoom it for everybody to see it clearly. So probably a Word or a PDF would be good.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Okay, guys, then have a nice weekend, a nice week, and wait for my email, which will also have a link to your recording and the attachment, a different email with the assignment that I just showed you on your emails.
Awesome.
Okay, Priya, I'll add you to the WhatsApp group so you don't miss any communication.
Did you get my number?
Yeah, I got it on the chat here. Where is the chat? Yeah, I got it here. I'll try to add you right away. I don't know if I can add it without adding your contact to my contact list. Let me try. But I'll add you, no problem. So
Okay, sure.
oh,
So much
okay,
for this
guys.
wonderful teaching today.
Sorry, there's some crosstalk. Priya, you're saying something?
I was saying thank you so much for this wonderful session and teaching.
Yeah, my pleasure. So yeah, and we'll talk next week, mostly same time, 11 o'clock.
Bye
Awesome.
bye,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Have a good
Bye.
weekend.
Bye, Venkat. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye bye.